Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular council meeting, August 22nd. Moved by Councillor Perrier, second by Councillor Rigglehoff. Be it resolved that the Township of Greater Madawaska calls to order the August 22nd, 2022 regular council meeting at 5:31 p.m. All in favor? Carried. Please stand for O Canada. As we gather in chambers, I would like to acknowledge on behalf of Council and our community that we are meeting on unceded traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history, and we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Moved by Councillor Perrier, seconded by Councillor Rigglehoff. Be it resolved that the agenda of the council meeting of August 22nd, 2022 be approved as presented. All in favor? Carried. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. And we have a delegation tonight, Calabogie Business Collective, Megan James. And Megan, if you hit that speaker and until the button turns green.
Awesome. Firstly, thanks so much for having us tonight. Sorry it took me a few months. Summer, super busy, and life is just super busy. But so I'm here today. We're in the Calabogie Business Collective. I know Mr. Hunt has probably told most of you about it. He attends our meetings. We took a break for the summer just because everyone is a little too busy to kind of be there. But essentially I'm here today to request funding to cover our insurance for the fiscal year. And hopefully this can be an ongoing thing for our yearly insurance. But I wanted to start and just tell you a bit about myself. So I'm the general manager at the Summer Inn in Calabogie, and is part of my kind of starting that position there. Obviously, I'm not from Calabogie. I reside in Whitewater region. I've been there for about 10 years. I previously worked in Pembroke. So coming over here, I started talking to local businesses just as a way to kind of introduce myself and get to know everybody in the area. And there seemed a big need for a collective like ours. And then we started to discover that CABA previously existed. And I'm not sure why exactly it ended. I've heard a few things, but I've tried to kind of stay out of the reasons why it ended. And we are just kind of on a mission to recreate something similar, but just with a new vision, an open-mindedness with collaboration over competition. And we really want Calabogie to succeed. And we think the work that we can do will greatly benefit not just the residents, but the business owners too. So I'm the vice president of the Ottawa Valley Tourism Association. So I've been in that position for about 2 years, but I've worked closely with them through my other positions for about 10 years. And I also sit on the board of directors for Ontario's Highlands Tourism Association. So obviously tourism is a huge part of my life and my kind of business life as well. I believe in the collaboration of partnerships between local businesses to bring people to our communities and our areas and encourage them to explore, whether they stay with us every time or stay somewhere else. It doesn't matter. It's all about showcasing Calabogie and the Valley and Ontario's Highlands and beyond. So I believe the collective, we're kind of working towards a common goal. I know there's about 30 of us, a big mix of kind of businesses in it. A lot of them are tourism based naturally, because that to me is what Calabogie kind of thrives on. But we are hoping to get funding from you guys, some help. We don't have any money at the moment as we're kind of resurrecting what CABA used to be. We are still registered as a not-for-profit through the Ontario government, so that's a great thing for us. We just have found we need insurance to be able to apply for grants and things that we can kind of put towards increasing Calabogie's kind of demand and just bringing people here for whether it's events or just day trips or anything. Like, we're so accessible to even Toronto and Ottawa, Kingston, like Perth. Being at the motel, we're finding when we originally opened, most of our business was from Toronto, but now most of our business is like within 300 kilometers, which is not a very far trek. So there is so much potential for Calabogie, and I know Mayor Hunt has told us that there isn't a dedicated person here who deals with kind of like the tourism and events like other townships have. I know Pembroke, Petawawa, Laurentian Valley, they all have somebody who's specifically employed to kind of do those sorts of things. And that's what's lacking here in Madawaska. So I feel like our collective can kind of take over that. And it will not only benefit Calabogie, but it'll benefit all of our individual businesses. So what we are kind of looking for as far as funding, we believe the cost will be about $3,500 a year to cover our insurance. We're required as a not-for-profit to be able to apply for grants to have a $2 million liability policy. So that's what we think it will be. We're happy to report on our progress and stuff like that quarterly. Mayor Hunt's been part of our meetings. I'm hoping that the new mayor, whoever is voted, I understand Mayor Hunt isn't up for re-election in the fall, but whoever the new mayor is, I'm hoping he'll sit on our meetings and our committee as well and be a part of this as we kind of move Calabogie forward.
Okay.
And that's it. I open it up to any questions from any of the councilors.
Before we start, maybe I could ask you to explain, because for the council sitting around the table, we normally talk about our township as a whole, and I know it was discussed at the meetings whether this would be a Greater Madawaska collective or a Calabogie, and the decision was that it would be selective to Calabogie, at least initially and perhaps long term. So do you want to speak to that a little bit just for council's benefit?
Yeah, of course. So I think at the moment we decided it would be just Calabogie. It seemed to be where all of the business, most of the businesses within Greater Madawaska resided. So I felt it wasn't just me. I think it was put to kind of like a group decision. There was about 25 of us at the meeting who all kind of came to the general consensus. But obviously growth is a huge part of what we want to achieve. And once we start growing, like obviously including kind of the surrounding areas is definitely something we want to look at for sure.
Okay, thank you. So I'll open up to questions from council. Council Carrie.
Okay, so just quick, do you have any policy documents that you're working on to make it like a bylaw or something, how you guys work, which would be similar to Calabogie Home Support?
Yeah. So again, it all comes down to funding. So the first step for us for funding is that we need an insurance policy in place. And then we'd be able to apply for funding to work with somebody who would be able to help us put like all of our ideas and kind of our goals and our missions into one piece to be able to have all
So
of
why
that.
did you go to not-for-profit? Is there something in the government regs that made you go that way?
So-
I asked because I'm starting my own business.
Yeah, of course. So CABA previously had gone through the process of being a not-for-profit, and we were able to kind of resurrect that. So what we have to do at the moment is just file all of our tax returns for the years that it was dormant.
Yeah.
Because I understand CABA kind of ended maybe 10 years ago.
I would say so.
So there's 10 years of kind of like nil tax returns that need to be filed. And then we'll be on good standing with them. But we still have our not-for-profit status.
Good for you.
Thank you.
And I believe, Councillor Perry, in applying for grants, there's a lot more grants available for not-for-profit than a profit.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Especially in the tourism sector. So I feel like we would align really well with a lot of the tourism related grants, just because that's primarily what Calabogie is about, is the tourism.
Okay, and when were you looking to get the insurance in place?
So we're hoping as soon as possible. We had taken kind of a 2-month break, and I've kind of set myself a goal of like 1 year from the inception of the new collective. So that kind of brings us to December. That's when we first held our meeting and we really kind of started getting things going. So I would love to have that in place by December of this year so we can kind of start 2023.
So certainly with council receiving it, it could be a budget consideration for 2023 then, is what you're thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, anything further? Councillor McPherson.
Well, our mayor knew that I would ask this question, which is why he raised it right at the beginning. But I'm going to try to be very careful with my words. But I'm appalled at the number of times that this council was looked upon as being the council for Calabogie. And initiatives are all Calabogie, Calabogie, Calabogie. You said, you know, and I was going to ask you what the collective consists of, and so that's why our mayor got in front of me on that and made sure that you explained that it is just Calabogie. You made a statement that the majority of the businesses are here, and I'm wondering how much work the collective has done to see how many businesses reside in wards 2 and 3 before you make a statement like that, because I think there's quite a number of businesses outside of Ward 1. And I'm very concerned about the short-sightedness of this. When I was first elected and I was asked questions about different things, I said, I represent this municipality first and foremost. I would represent Ward 3 second to that, because it's the municipality as a whole that is important. And the strength of the municipality is what's important. And the strength of the municipality should flow down or out to wards 1, 2, and 3. And unfortunately, what I've seen over the course of almost 8 years is occasion after occasion where the focus has been Calabogie. And that disappoints me. And it disappoints me with what, you know, I understand you coming and asking for the funding. You know, I have, you know, that doesn't upset me in any way, shape, or form. But what upsets me is the number of times that the focus seems to always be on Calabogie and rarely ever on wards 2 and 3. I realize that they're the weak sisters because we are more rural. We're in a, you know, we're not in as well-traveled location, so on and so forth. But I am, you know, I just wanted to make it clear that as a representative for another part of the municipality, I am disappointed that the decision was made. I don't know whether you went out to businesses in wards 2 and 3 and polled them to see whether there was any interest or anything of that nature. But if you didn't, then it certainly disappoints me and leaves me concerned as you know, as this term of council is coming to an end.
Okay, and that certainly can be taken back to the committee, you know, to, you know, speak to it.
No, for sure. And I totally sympathize and understand where you're coming from. I grew up in a kind of township very similar to this, where my little town was always forgotten. And it's in part by me, but also in part that, we're all full-time working, a lot of us mothers, like wives, husbands. So by no means was it to offend you in the other regions at all. I think we were just taking realistic steps on what we were capable of achieving. And Calabogie seems like a really good spot to kind of start and build this collective and grow it from there, and then eventually expand. It's always been our intention to kind of expand to kind of Burnstown and Griffith and Mount St. Patrick and all of those other places. I'm sorry if I'm missing some. Again, I'm not from here. But that's always been our goal. We just want to take realistic steps and grow what we can kind of in Calabogie and expand as we have the means and the funds to kind of do so. Should somebody approach us and ask us about the collective, we would never say no to attending a meeting. But at this point, because we don't have the insurance and the funding and all that kind of stuff, it's really just, it's more of an informal kind of get together. My goal kind of by December is to build it to a proper collective with all of the things that we had kind of talked about, insurances and policies and procedures and our goals, and a realistic kind of strategic plan that we can kind of put in place for over the next 3 years. And that would definitely encompass everyone in the municipality, because again, I'm in tourism. So I work in Calabogie. I'm the vice president of the Ottawa Valley Tourism Association, but also sit on the board for Ontario's Highlands. And that's such a huge geographical region. So that's definitely within what we are thinking of doing.
Just a follow-up question, if I may.
Of
I
course.
know Councillor Perrier had asked about policy documents, which you just
Yeah.
alluded to. Does the group have a charter? A charter document, something that lays out, or are you working on something that lays out what the group stands for, what the plans are in terms of the future?
So again, that all comes back to funding. So I've talked with multiple people actually about a strategic plan and getting all these documents in place, because I feel like that's the first step to kind of positioning us. Just making sure also that everybody aligns with what we kind of are looking for and want to do as far as growing. So we don't have a document in place because these take time and money and that sort of thing. So again, our first step is getting money for insurance so we can apply for the funding to get these things done.
Because what I'd like to, obviously a charter, mission statement, expanded,
Yeah.
right? And well documented. And I would like to think that charter would reference some of what you said that the group would like to do, and the plans to expand and encompass the entire municipality in the not too distant future.
Oh, for sure. But that's actually a strategic plan is one of the things I've said from the beginning that that we need. And it encompasses that sort of thing as well. So you need missions, you need goals and all of that. So it will definitely be included.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councillor Frost.
Yes, could you remind me again of the amount of money for the insurance?
So I've been talking with a couple insurance brokers. Apparently it's more of a dynamic kind of request just because we don't have bricks and mortar. We don't really have any assets. Like, we're not sure exactly what we're going to be doing as a collective. So trying to find somebody to insure us when we're not even sure kind of who we are completely. But they're thinking about $3,500 a year would be our premium.
500?
35.
3,500?
Sorry.
Sorry, the hearing is not good.
Now, is there any possibility that they can be on as a rider through our insurance? Or that could be looked at probably at the same time?
Yeah.
So we'd bring it to a budget deliberation?
Yeah, so we'll look through all those options and then we'll,
So get the request in front of us?
yep,
Okay. So just hearing from this, there'll be a new council that will be dealing with the budget, but there could be a stipulation in there that the money would be put forward, providing that businesses And I think you're dealing mostly with tourism businesses more than the plumbers and
So
so on right now.
it's actually a pretty good mix.
Yeah,
So,
it is? Okay.
yeah, I would say it's about 60-40. So 60% tourism,
Okay.
40% your kind of like mechanics, racetrack, that sort of thing that don't necessarily directly bring in tourism, but help to provide the tourists with services that they
Okay.
need.
So that could be something, that it could be, the money could be given, but there might be provisions.
A
in there that
stipulation.
The businesses from other wards are invited to be part of it, so you
Yeah.
can take that back as well. Can't say what'll be on it, but
Yeah.
that's one. Okay, anything further, Councillor Perrier?
So just a question for both Glenn and Jack. So maybe the businesses that you guys have, we should take their hand and maybe introduce them to this young lady here and then see what happens. Because I don't know what the demographics are in your area, and I think your demographics are probably much different than what Jack and Glenn are referring to, maybe.
Well, and that might be a good point, is at least to formulate a list from the wards that the collective could reach out to.
I would definitely be open to that. I've had people calling this summer and just because they've heard of it and stuff like that. So that's primarily how it's kind of grown with the businesses, is that people have heard that we're kind of meeting and collecting. So I would be open for my email to be passed along. And if people have any questions, I'm more than happy to kind of communicate with them.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Megan.
Okay. Thank you.
And facilities, Eagles Nest parking lot. Moved by Councillor Perrier, seconded by Councillor Rigglehoff. Be it resolved, the council approved bylaw 56/2022, fees and charges Schedule A, to include an annual parking fee for Eagles Nest parking lot, and furthermore, that council repeal bylaw 34-2022, fees and charges. Leonard, can I turn that over to you?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So I've had not too many people email or call about wanting to get a season's pass. So we talked to Honk, the organization that does the parking for us, and there's a virtual one we can do. So we come up with the $25 for residents and $50 for non-residents. So that's what we're looking for right now to get passed through council for the fees and charges.
Okay, and perhaps you could speak to the information about the monies that have been collected to date as well, just for anyone that's viewing.
Oh, yes, and also, so with the parking being in now for approximately a month, we've collected close to $5,000 in revenues. So with those revenues, we put in a washroom, a portable washroom at $500 a month. And our plan is to build a washroom there this fall, so we can cut that cost down some, so to be a permanent washroom. And then the rest of the monies will go into maintaining the parking lot, new signage, and maintenance on the trails. And any surplus money then we would use on other trails in the township to also for signage and upgrading and that sort of thing.
Okay, so it sounds like the money is going to be allocated and kept to further enhance that trail, or the trail.
Yes, that's the idea. There's lots of areas on the trail that could use some extra gravel for leveling out and that sort of thing. So it's definitely going to be an asset for us and for the people that are using the trails.
Okay, thank you. Questions of council? Councillor Rigglehoff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Any thought, the $25 local, is that going to be a family pass?
It'll be a car, I would believe.
It'll be tied to a license plate.
To the license plate. So I don't have children of my own, but I know a lot of people that have kids living at home, they have their own vehicles as well.
So,
Actually, you can tie the pass to more than one vehicle
right.
in a household.
Okay.
What's that?
You can tie the, excuse me, you can tie it to more than one vehicle in a household.
But the vehicles have to have the same address.
Same
Yeah.
the
civic
household
address. Okay, that's fair.
Okay.
Thank you, Leonard.
Councillor Perrier.
Do you know what the difference, Leonard, between residents versus out-of-towners that are actually going to Eagles Nest?
Just from a few of the ones that use the trail quite often, some of the people that are saying roughly, they're saying 5% are probably locals, and they're saying the other 95% are out-of-towners.
Okay, and just one more question, if I
Go
may.
ahead.
Where on the list of the schedule where the fees and charges are, where is it located, Renee, on the list? I couldn't find it.
It would be on page 2 and it's highlighted in red.
Oh, dang, I don't have a color computer. Okay, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, Councillor McPherson.
So part of my question was already answered because I was wondering how this would be managed. So through use of registering of license plates, how do we, I hate to use the term police, but I can't think of any other right now, but how do we monitor or manage the parking there right now, Leonard? Because the onus is on the individual to scan the QR code or do whatever, correct, in order to pay the $5 fee?
Yeah, so what's now is our bylaw officer we have hired. He has the enforcement app on his phone, and all his staff also has it. So when they go in the parking lot, it'll show whatever plates have registered on that app, and whichever ones have not registered, he will ticket that vehicle.
Oh, okay, so when you say registered, you mean they've paid for their parking?
Yeah, they
when-
paid for the parking, yes. So then
All
their
right.
license plate number comes up on the app if they have paid.
And how often is this checked? Like, is this something that they do daily, once a week, every couple of weeks?
Actually, I'll be honest with you, I have to check with Jim again. He said he was going to start it 2 weeks ago. We were a little bit behind getting it started, and he was up last weekend, he said. So I have to touch base with him just to find out how it worked out.
And we are doing this sporadically to begin with, because it's a new app. We don't want to punish those who didn't understand or didn't. So, and for the most part, it does appear that for $5,000 for a month, that the majority of people are being honest. So I think it'll be more to monitor on the long weekends or when it's really busy, Thanksgiving, the fall. So that's the intent, is that we're taking a softer approach, but it's still being monitored.
Yeah, and so far, obviously, with the revenue, it seems to be working, which is a good thing. And with the passes, I think it's a great idea. When you think of what it costs to go there, the cost of a season's pass seems to be in line with frequent users, which obviously I would think that the majority of visitors are not going to be looking for season's passes. And so I don't think that's it'll work out really well, I think.
Yeah, and I believe the rate of $5 is pretty nominal, so that there hasn't been pushback on that, other than there has been emails probably received by all of council from locals.
Well, and you would think that if there were concerns about it, you'd start to see usage peter off a little bit, or maybe some people just grin and bear it. But regardless, it seems to be a reasonable rate, and obviously the revenues. I think it's great to keep it to manage that parking lot and the rest of the trails. Would not want to see any of that going to general revenues. And that way, when again, would hope that money would go into, what do you call it?
Reserve?
Into what?
A reserve?
Yes, into reserve, so that, any new projects related to trails comes up, then that revenue would be there and would not be a burden then on the taxpayer.
Well, and that's one of the things, in some of the emails that I got back, people were not happy that we were going to be charging it all. But I think it's better to charge a nominal fee like that, have some money go in, enhance the trails, provide the washrooms because that's needed. Kids or people, families take their children there and they come out, they need to go to the washroom. So we're enhancing that, and it's not on the backs of the taxpayers. It's being provided by the parking fees. So I believe it's a good thing. So, okay, anything further? So all in favor of the resolution as presented? Carried. Monthly progress report, Ferguson Lake Road. Do you want to speak to that, Allison?
So it is included here. The road has been paved from Campground Side Road through to Canelli Mountain. They've started to work on phase 2, so we are seeing some progress. And the markings still have to go on the first phase, but everything seems to be on schedule and moving forward well.
And I believe the crews are moving on today to phase 2.
Yeah.
Thank you. Environmental, we have nothing this time. Protection. Planning, building permit report. So the building permit report is in front of you. We're at $23 million to the end of July, and that compares to 20.6 million last year, so it's up 3 million over. Erica has a very busy month. I had $4.5 million in building permits, so thanks going out to her for getting all those through. I guess there had been a little bit of a backlog when she got there, but I think she has things up to speed now, so that's great. Any questions on the building permit report? Floating cottages discussion, Severn Township. You want to speak to that?
Councillor Perrier asked this be added to
Councillor
the
Perrier.
Yeah, so I just got some information on this trend of, you'll see on page 2 of the presentation, how people are actually building barges and living on water. And so I just want to raise that with you folks so that you know that there's a potential that we could run into this. So if you scroll through if you just look through the package, you'll find that there's no legislation, be it provincial, municipal, or whatever. So I just want to bring this up for you guys to know. That's it.
And did Severn looking into it? Because I don't think the municipality would have any jurisdiction on water as one of the provinces. So so far there's no legislative.
Exactly.
Or
So-
we'll probably be able to reach out to Mr. Baird on that, and he could probably give us some, in the future, he could probably give us some idea about oceans and fisheries. And,
Okay.
okay, so that was an information item. Zoning bylaw update.
So this is just a memo to council. Right now, we did receive a grant for a zoning bylaw update with Whitewater Region. And with changes in personnel, both at Greater Madawaska as well as at Whitewater, we're going to delay this project until later this year. It was going to be, we were planning to have open house in August, September, but it's just not feasible with the changes in the personnel right now. So this is too important of document to rush through and not have adequate staff to review it and provide comment before it comes to council for approval.
So on this, we had moved fairly quickly, but this has to be in place by the end of 2023, am I correct?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. Questions of council? Okay, seeing none. There's no resolution on that. Chairperson upgrade. July finance update. Renee.
Yeah, so this memo was provided to provide an update on year-to-date up to July 31st. And when considering up to July 31st, generally I consider about 60% of the year. So I usually flag items that are over and above. With that said, there are differences such as revenues where there are a lot of revenues that are collected within the beginning of the year. So at this time for revenues, the revenue trending is coming in as budgeted, with the exception of a few items. In recreational services, the revenues are higher. For Canada Day, with the other side and the expenses being applied against it. We have an increase in planning and development. So as you know, when we developed the 2022 budget, we anticipated an increase budgeted increase in revenue compared to last year. Right now, we're aligned with last year, slightly higher, but is still trending higher, similar to 2021. As for operating expenses, currently the expenses are within budget, with the exceptions. We have a lens on the fuel costs. The fuel costs are quite higher as expected. I believe at the July council meeting, we had allocated a surplus, which included an allocation to an operating contingency. So if ever we hit that point, we would have the opportunity to use those funds if required. With that said, currently the fuel costs are within, I believe they'll be within we would be able to fund it within the operating. Should that change over the next few months, we will come to council and discuss other options to fund it. As for capital expenditures, I've provided the list of capital projects and status updates. I wanted to highlight Ferguson Lake Road, as we had recently awarded phase 2, which will be funded through the phase 1 portion. So when you're looking at the capital budget for phase 1, there was a $4.5 million funding their budget there, which is 93% funded through grant funding or provincial funding. And then we had the other portions as phase 2 funded through a portion of development charges and debenture. As we will be proceeding with phase 2 through the phase 1 funding, currently those funds are anticipated to have not to be spent. With that said, that means that if everything goes as planned, we will debenture a bit less because we won't need to proceed with the phase 2 debenture, and a bit of a slight decrease to the use of development charges.
Okay, questions of council. Councillor McPherson.
So the first is not a question, it's more an observation and something that I would have liked to have seen here. In the summary report, where you've got the actual budget variance, that really doesn't, it's a nice number, but it doesn't really help an awful lot. What I would have liked to have seen would have been a column that showed projected.
Yes, so in the October, or the next council meeting having the August, I will be adding the forecasted. Forecasted is added to the capital. However, it was not included for the operating.
Which is common with the past. We never bring a projection until we're in September.
Yeah, I realize that, but like this looks nice, but it really doesn't tell me an awful lot.
And I understand that, but it's just to project so too early can give some false numbers.
Okay, the question I have is related to Ferguson Lake Road. So the 4.5 million is that the total amount of the grant that we received, is that what was the budget amount?
That's the total amount of the grant reduced by the funds already spent to date. The grant was just over $4.9 million. Therefore, there was a portion there that would have been the engineering and the design. And now we've moved into the construction phase.
Okay, and so the phase 2 items, they're like in the budget column, they're all budgeted out separately in addition to the 4.5 million, but in the actual forecast, they're all at zero. So does that mean that there was surplus funds in that 4.5 million from phase 1 that are sufficient to cover all the phase 2 items?
That is correct. Phase 1 was awarded, so I'll back up. When approving the 2022 budget, we had anticipated that we would be going out to tender for phase 1, and it would use up the funds for that we received from the grant. When we received the tenders, they came in for phase one, I believe, at 2.3 million. Therefore, there was funds available. We reached out to the province to see if we can utilize those funds on phase two. When we were budgeting for 2022 phase two here, we were considering just in-house.
The possibility that
Yes.
it wouldn't be allowed.
That is correct. And we didn't, at that time, we would have not known that the tenders would have been below the grant. We had the opportunity to have this funded now through the provincial funding as being funded there. Therefore, when you're looking at actual forecast at zero, this means that the requirement for debenture and the use of development charges for those portions will not be required anymore, lowering the requirement for
And
debenture.
it's all rolled up into that 4.5 million above.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Perry.
I'm just looking at the revenues, Renee, and it looks like to me that we're 5.687 and we're actuals is 5.158. Does that create a concern? Because we're not even through, that's why I don't understand these numbers.
Yeah, so what you would see here is a few components. As you could see, we have the taxation there. We're going to receive more funding on operating grants. So when you look at that 627, that's a fixed amount.
Okay.
As you receive it, you would receive that also. And then as we proceed down, there's planning and development still growing. So those would all come in along with the extraordinary items, which is non-reoccurring. This is compared to the zoning bylaw where we get the finance, the grant revenue. So we have grant revenue that have not been received yet.
Okay, one more question. Do you look around to other municipalities to see how their budget is? Because I was reading today that I guess in Elmont or that area, their budget's really good and they're raw root. So do we look at other municipalities to see where they're at compared to us maybe?
I find that I think you keep an eye out. It's not really comparable because it depends on how you budget.
Okay.
In that sense, everybody can budget maybe with a buffer, and then when you don't use the buffer, then it's to me, I guess it wouldn't be comparable unless we're talking about comparators such as fuel, if we're talking about going over on certain items.
Okay, great, thanks.
And I think further to that, this document's ever evolving. It's never the same 2 years in a row. So, we do look at best practices, questions that are asked during the year to see how they can be incorporated in. But it's a living document that there's not two that if you would look over the past 10 years that are the same. They're similar, but they're not the same.
And I think as far as budgeting, we like to think that other municipalities look to us for excellence in budgeting. Anything further? (9082) statutory and paid holidays. Moved by Councillor Perrier, seconded by Councillor Rigglehoff. Be it resolved that Council recognizes Truth and Reconciliation Day, September 30th, 2022 as a statutory holiday. And furthermore, for 2022, staff are permitted and encouraged to take 2 hours and attend a Remembrance Day service in the township, which may result in the township being closed during this time. And furthermore, the attached policy 2-31 comes into effect January 1st, 2023, which includes the addition of Truth and Reconciliation Day and Remembrance Day, and it removes with the removal of Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. Would somebody like to speak to that?
Yes, please.
Okay, Allison.
So this was brought to council in July, and there was questions as to what holidays are taken in other neighboring municipalities, how many statutory holidays they have. So the numbers varied between 14 and 17. So prior to any changes, we were at 16. So what is before council is to remain us at 16. The reason for it not coming in until January 1st, 2023 is we're in the end of August and people have already booked holidays, made plans, booked vacations. So I don't want to penalize someone for that, but recognizing the importance of recognizing the Truth and Reconciliation Day, as well as Remembrance Day. I think this is one, not the only one, option that can be considered by council to see if it's a fair transition. The number of statutory holidays would remain the same, so we would remain at 16, so there's no increase. And by removing the Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve in 2023, may assist in the event there's a weather event, then we're not paying our Public Works Department overtime.
Thank you. So this was a concern of mine that when it was brought forward before, and I asked it to go back. I'm very happy with this being presented, and that Remembrances Day is back on as a stat day. And then the floater days, the people are allowed to use those to take the Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve if they so choose. So I was the one with the concern the last time. I'm quite pleased with this one. Councillor McPherson.
So Remembrance Day is not on as a stat day, 2 hours.
For only 2022,
But for 2023, it will be.
because if we add it, then we're going above the threshold.
Okay, but if you add Remembrance Day in plus the Truth and Reconciliation
And
Day,
take away.
Take it from the floater day.
We're not taking it from floater, we're taking it from Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve.
okay, and Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve are currently full days?
Yes,
Okay, so the expectation is people are going to work full days on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve?
yes.
All right,
Okay.
That's the expectation, recognizing that there'll be a separate, and we'll address this in a separate
Yeah.
policy about the office being open and
Right.
what it looks like.
so based on this for 2022, though, there will be an additional holiday?
Yes,
Yes?
yes, because,
Oh, Truth and
yes,
Reconciliation, yes.
yes.
Okay, and we've obviously, well, I was gonna say budgeted for it, but it's not really a budget item, so to speak. It's more getting the work done in 8 less hours, or
Yeah.
7.5 hours, or whatever. Whatever work day is.
And we did do this last year. We didn't add it to the list. We didn't add Truth and Reconciliation to the policy, but council did recognize it by closing, or as declaring Truth and Reconciliation Day as it only pertains to 2021.
All right.
So we're at the same days as 2021.
Right.
And next year it'll change.
Yep.
Anything further? Okay, moved by Councillor Perry, seconded by Councillor Rigglehoff. Be it resolved, the council recognizes Truth and Did I read that?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay. I did such a good job, I thought I'd do it again. All in favor of the resolution as presented? Carried. We're starting to sound familiar. Economic Development, notice from the Ministry Infrastructure regarding high-speed internet. So the document that was presented there doesn't give a lot of information, but since then they've listed, and probably everybody has seen, but maybe we could put it on the internet to show. I think our area, like Greater Madawaska, it was part of a $478 million grant that was allotted to Bell. So Bell is going to be doing all of this section. And then outside of that is Cogeco is coming up Highway 508 from the river to the as far as Calabogie Peaks. So those lines will, and that's met with Michael Hennessy, the vice president of Cogeco, and he said that'll be 5 to the home. So I think it's 5 to the edge of 511, and then they're linking into the Cogeco cables that are through, but he said it's the equivalent of 5. And the new grant, that's to be in place by 2025. So it's moving at least. And I think with the cell towers that are going up, we're also going to be seeing some line of sight and some improvement on that side of it too. So at least we have seen significant movement on it through this term. Questions of council on the notice? Councillor McPherson.
I guess from my perspective, like this is great, and it's good to see, as you said, it's good to see the movement. the challenge as I see it is providing a reasonable degree of information to keep people informed and help them to make good financial decisions. So I just recently moved on up to Starlink. It's a big investment. And so getting started on that is a sizable investment, and the monthly fee is quite expensive. Now, the monthly stops anytime I want to stop it, but I've already invested in the equipment. Even if I were to wait for whatever might come my way and decide 2 years from now or 3 years from now, it's okay, I want to make the switch. Well, my investment in the equipment's not that big of a deal. But I'm thinking more in terms of somebody 2 years from now sitting there saying, what should I do? What should I do? What should I do? And if they know the timing, if they know the area, because we all know that any of these things will only have a certain reach. And so having definitive lines with respect to how far out these initiatives will reach when they finally do come to fruition, and the timing for them, obviously from what I read here, the goal is to put the tools in place to help staff from the different municipalities be as informed and up on things as possible. So I think the goal ahead, or the challenge ahead for our municipal staff, will be to try and make that work and do it in such a way so that it helps people make good financial decisions with respect to their access to broadband. And that's the only thing that I would like to put out there, is just we need to be on top of that, or the municipality needs to be on top of it as much as possible to keep people informed so that they can make good decisions down the road as they're deciding, do I stick with the service I have, or somebody new moving into the area, do I sign up for this or do I sign up for this? What makes sense?
Yeah, I believe that the grants that have been allotted this time, and it's covering, I believe, up to something like 95%. So they have every residence within the township listed by your 911 number. They weren't sharing any of this information, but now that these grants are out, I would expect, within 6 months or so, that we're going to see, and there's definitely going to be some areas, it could be yours, that the answer is Starlink. So there definitely will be some of those. But I truly believe that we'll be able to get that information either through EORN, or Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus is pushing this hard, AMO is pushing it hard, that we'll be able to get this information. But I agree with you, you don't want to tomorrow spend $2,500 on equipment and find out the next day that they're going to be coming by your door. So we do have to keep pushing for that information. And we do have groups that are. EORN is especially good, and we have some good contacts there. Jason St. Pierre, he just signed on as the CAO? I believe CAO. He was with Bell. He brings a lot of knowledge to EORN, and I think he will be a tremendous source of information to us and know how to get us. And this Michael Hennessy that we deal with at Cogeco is very good as well. We do have contacts at Rogers. So between those, I believe the information. When this grant thing was announced that they were going to come out with a grant, they all clammed up because they're all competing for similar regions. Now that they've been allotted, I think the information will start to flow, but I'll certainly push it at the county, as long as I'm there, and then we'll have to make sure that that continues. Anything further? And we're down to minutes. Moved by Councillor Perrier, seconded by Councillor Rigelhoff. Be it resolved that the following minutes are approved by Council: July 25th, 2022 regular council meeting, August 4th, 2022 special council meeting. All in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor Perrier, seconded by Councillor Rigglehoff. Be it resolved, the council meeting of August 22nd, 2022 at 6:26 p.m. Enter into closed session pursuant to Section 239(2) of the Municipal Act regarding personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal local board employees' confidentiality. All in favor? Carried. So Sean, if you welcome back, everyone. Moved by Councillor Perrier, seconded by Councillor Rigglehoff. The council instructs the following as a result of the closed meeting. Personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal local board employee, confidentiality.
No action needed.
No action needed. All in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor Perrier, seconded by Councillor Rigglehoff. Be it resolved that the following bylaws, 56/2022, fees and charges, be deemed read a second and final time and passed by council, and furthermore, 55-2022, be deemed read a first, second, and final time passed by council at the special council meeting held August 22nd, 2022. All in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor Perrier, seconded by Councillor Rigglehoff, that be it resolved that the regular council meeting of August 22nd be adjourned at 6:29 p.m. All in favor? Carried.